Okay, so in this lecture, we have discussed hazard analysis methods. Okay, so this is a most important topic for the exam. So it includes the methods, which include the first is process hazard analysis, then what if analysis, event tree analysis, failure mode and effect analysis, fault tree analysis, and the last one, which is the hazard and operability studies. HAZOP. Okay. Now, first of all, we discuss with the process hazard analysis. Okay, or it is also called preliminary hazard analysis. Okay, so what do you mean by the process hazard analysis? It is a semi-quantitative analysis that is performed to identify all the potential hazard and accidental event that may lead to an accident. Then rank the identified accident event according to their severity. Okay, severity. Then identify required hazard control and follow up the action. Right. Then what can preliminary hazard analysis be used for? Okay. So the first of all, it is used for the as an initial risk study is an early stage of the project. Right. So accidents are mainly caused by release of the energy. 9pH, it is identified where energy may be released and which accident event that may occur, and give a rough estimate of this severity of each accidental event. So the pH result are used to compare the main concept, then to focus on to important risk issues and the input to more detailed risk analysis. Right. Okay, the second one, which is as an initial step of the detailed risk analysis of a system concept or existing system, right? So the purpose of the preliminary hazard analysis, which is then identify those accidental events that should be subject to a further and more detailed risk analysis, right? And the third one, which is a complex risk analysis of a rather simple system. So whether or not a PHA will be the sufficient analysis depend both on the complexity of the system and the objective of the analysis, right? Okay, the scope of the preliminary hazard analysis, which is hazardous component, then safety related interface between the various system elements, including the software, then environmental constraints, including the operating environments. Okay, then operating test, maintenance, built-in test, then diagnostic and emergency procedures, facilities, real property, install equipment, support equipment and the training. Okay, then safety related equipment like safeguard and the possible alternate approaches, and the malfunction to the system, subsystem or the software. Okay, so this is all about the preliminary hazard analysis. Now, the second analysis method, which is the failure modes and the effect analysis. Okay. So the failure mode, it means that the way in which the failure occurs. Okay. Effect, it means that the potential consequences or the final outcome of the failure mode. Right. So the failure mode and the effect analysis is a systematic, then protective method for evaluating process to identify where and how it might fail and to assess the relative impact of the different failure in order to identify the part of the process that are most in need to change. Right? It includes the review of the following like failure modes, then failure causes and the failure effect. Okay. Here you can see that the table is given. So in this table the purpose is given for this method. The first is identify the failure mode and their effect. Okay. It is applicability, which is in design and operation management phase, useful for the modification, right? Then data required for this method, which is knowledge of the system, plant, function. And the result will be the qualitative and include the worst case estimate of the consequences. Okay. Now, Now, the next method, which is the what if analysis. Okay, what do you mean by what if analysis? It is a structured brainstorming method of determining that what thing can go wrong and judgment the likelihood and consequences of the situation occurring. Okay, so the answer of this question from the basis for making a judgment regarding for the acceptability of the risk and determine a recommendation occur of the action for this risk judged to be unacceptable, right? So, an experienced review team can effectively and productively discuss on major issues concerning a process or a system, right? So, each member of the review team which participate in assessing what can go wrong based on their past experience and knowledge of the similar situation, right? Then at each step in the procedure or the process, what if questions are asked and answer will be generated. So the review team then make a judgment regarding the likelihood and the severity of the what if answer. So if the risk indicated by those judgment is unacceptable, then a recommendation is made by the team for the further action. So the complete analysis is then summarized and prioritized and responsibility are assigned. So the result of this analysis are immediately available and usually can apply quickly, right? Okay, so the purpose of this method, which is identify possible event sequences, then it is applicable on all the phases. Then data required for this method, which is detailed knowledge of the SOP and the process or the plan. Then result will be the tabular listing of the accident, then scenarios, that consequences and possible risk reduction methods, right? Okay, so this is the what if analysis method. Okay, now the next one, which is the HAZOP. It means that hazard and operability studies. Okay, the HAZOP is the hazard and operability analysis, right? So hazard and any hazard, it means that any operation that could possibly cause a release of the toxic, flammable or explosive chemical or any action that could result in injury to the person, right? And operability, it means that any operation inside the design involved that would cause a shutdown that could possibly lead to violation of environmental health or safety regulation or negatively impact profitability, right? So it is defined as a formal, systematic, critical, rigorous examination to the process and manufacturing intention of a new and existing facility to assess the hazard potential of a mail operation and the malfunction of individual item of equipment and consequences effect. Okay. So the guideboard are used to generate the deviation from the design intent. The team that identify which cause the consequences of the deviations, right? There are the 4 basic steps to the process. The HAZOP study process, which is first one, which is to form a HAZOP team. Okay. Then identify the element of the system. Then consider the variation in the operating parameter. Identify any hazard or the failure points, right? Now we will discuss all the process in the detail. The first one, which is form a HAZOP team. It means that to perform a HAZOP, a team of workers is formed, including people of the variety of the expertise such as the operation, maintenance, instrumentation, engineering, process design, and other specialists are needed. Okay, so this should be devised, but people with experience, then knowledge and an understanding of that part of the system, right? So the key requirement of an understanding of the system, which is and the willingness to consider all the reasonable variation at each point in the system, right? The second process, which is identify each element and its parameter. So the HAZOP team will be to create a plan for the complete work process, identifying an individual step or the element. So this typically involve using the piping and instrumental diagram, or a plant model, then as a guide for examining every section and component of process, right? For each element, the team will identify the plant and operating parameter of the system at that point, flow rate, pressure, temperature, vibration, and the etc. Okay, this is a second step. Now, the third step, which is a consider the effect of the variation. Okay, so for the each parameter, the team consider the effect of the deviation from a normal. For example, what would happen if the pressure at this valve was too high? So what if the pressure was unexpectedly low, and what would the rate of change in the pressure cause its own problem here? So don't forget to consider the way that each element interact with the other over a time. For example, what would happen if the valve was opened too early or too late, right? So this is here you can see that the various conditions are given, and here you can see that the what if analysis method are used. Okay, then step 4, which is identify hazard and failure point. So the where the result of the variation would be danger to the workers or to the production process, you have a find a potential problem. Okay, so the document this concern and the estimate the impact of the failure at that point, then determine the likelihood of that failure. Is that a real cause for the harmful variation? Then evaluate the existing safeguard and protection system and evaluate their ability to handle the deviation that you have considered. Okay, so this is a process of the hazard, right? Now, it is a following term are used to process for the analysis, which is intention, deviation, cause, and the consequences. Okay, the purpose of this system, which is identify the hazard and operability problems. It is applicable on the new plant where the design is nearly formed. Data required for this method, which is detailed description of the process and operating procedures, and the result will be the qualitative identification of the hazard and operating problem and the recommended changes. Okay, so this is all about the hazard. Now, the fault tree analysis, it means that it is an analysis in a graphical technique that ensure a systematic description of the combination of possible occurrence in a system which can result in undesirable outcome, right? So the fault tree analysis is a unique interrelation of the event leading to failure and undesirable state. Okay, so it focuses on one particular accident event and provide a method for the determining cause of the event. The fault tree are the deductive method for identifying way in which hazard can lead to the accident, right? So the fault tree is constructed by relating the sequences of event then which individually could result to the top event, right? So constructing a tree with AND or logic gates. AND gate implies that both initial event need to occur in order to give a rise to the intermediate event, right? OR gate means that either of two initial event can give rise to the intermediate event, right? This is a fault tree analysis. Now, event tree analysis, it means that it is called an event tree because the graphical presentation of subsequent event grow like a tree as a number of event increases, right? An event tree consider of initiating event, probable subsequent event, and the final result caused by the sequence of the event, right? The event tree begin with the initiating event and work towards the final result and inductive approach. Consequences of the event are follow through the series of the possible path, where each path is assigned a probability of occurrence, while the probability of the various possible outcome can be calculated. Okay, so the problem subsequent event are independent to each other and the specific final result, which depend only the final on the event and the subsequent event which is following, right? So this is the event tree analysis. Okay, I hope you all understood about the various method for the hazard identification, right? Thank you for the watching. Thank you.